Okay. You ready to hang on? Sometimes when I do this, there's so much stuff to cover, and to cover one thing and to fill all in the gaps is huge, and sometimes it's like drinking out of a fire hose. Tonight, you're not going to have to drink out of a fire hose, okay? I'm going to back the water truck up over you. There's going to be no hose. I'm just going to open the valve and let it rip. And I hope by the end of the night, everybody's still breathing. God did not save you so you get to go to heaven and not go to hell. Let me say that again. God did not save you so you get to go to heaven and not go to hell. Okay, right now you want to put an H right here on my forehead for heretic, right? That's not the ultimate reason God saved you. That's one of the benefits that come along with God saving us. And there is purpose behind that and what God wants to do. But you've got to understand this. God didn't save you for you. He saved you for Him. And our culture has got that all turned upside down. And the Christian church has got that all turned upside down. Because you see, God is on a mission. And His mission is to reveal Himself in His glory. So you're not going to have in your handouts every single slide that I have up here, but I put there for you the key ones that we'll be referring to, okay? God is on a mission, and that mission is to reveal Himself in His glory. Everything He has done, everything He is doing, everything He will be doing has that as His ultimate goal. It's about Him putting Himself on display. That's why He created everything. To show off His glory and to give glory to Himself. Before I met Janet, I had the privilege of speaking at Chuck Swindoll's church to their singles group. And I met a little gal, and I was single at the time, met a single gal at the time. Isn't that what you do? And Charity was her name. And so I picked up Charity down in Orange County, and I took her up to my favorite place in the whole Southern California area. It's called Point du May. There's a beach there, and then there's this big point that sticks out, and you can climb through some trails and get to the top. And then I found this place where you could actually walk around, and there was a little like alcove that was just big enough to put a blanket in a picnic basket. And it dropped off over 100 feet right into the ocean. So you could kind of look over the edge and see waves crashing in. And the seagulls and pelicans actually flew, you look down on them. Okay? This place had woo potential. And so we're sitting there, and if the pelicans and all that weren't enough, a whole school of dolphins go by. Right? I thought, it can't get any better than that. Until a whale comes by and flips his tail right out there in front of us. Man, this is woo potential off the charts, right? So I turned to Charity and I said, isn't this incredible that all this beautiful stuff we see, all this creation, all these animals and the beauty of it and the majesty of all of it, God created all of it just to bring attention to Himself and glory to Himself. And Charity looked at me and said, well, that's awful arrogant of God. Who does He think He is? And I said, well, I think He's God, and I think it's time I took you home. And that was the last time I ever saw Charity. See, God created all of that. And the story of God and the gospel is much bigger than I just get to go to heaven and not go to hell. Okay? Okay, so what I want to do tonight is I want to talk about gospel-centered lives. And it doesn't matter whether you're married or not. This is so appropriate to all of us. Because you cannot have a gospel-centered marriage if you don't have a gospel-centered life. And you don't have to be married to be developing and growing in a gospel-centered life. As a matter of fact, the amount that you grow and being gospel-centered in all that you do is what you're going to walk down the aisle with and bring into a marriage. It's not like, okay, when I get married, I'm going to be the best husband anybody could ever be. I'm going to be a great husband, I'm going to be a great dad, and once I get married, I'll start working on it. No, you're working on it right now as a single Christian. By the way, I chose my words carefully there. Notice I didn't say a Christian single. You're not a Christian single. Your identity is not in being single. You're a single Christian. There's where your identity is, okay? So you start now developing those things, and we're going to see how this all forms and how it comes together tonight. So it starts out with creation. When God created all of this for His glory and to tell His story. But then because of the fall, Adam and Eve chose to rebel, and now this relationship that was designed to be in harmony with God and harmony with all of His creation and harmony with one another is now all messed up. Not just Adam and Eve are all messed up. Everything's messed up. The animals are messed up. The rocks are messed up. Everything's messed up. And nothing is functioning like God designed it to. So God then put in place redemption and brought Christ to pay the penalty for sin that was necessary so that He could be our propitiation. I just like to say that word. It's funny. Propitiation. That means the wrath of God was satisfied. Okay? This is what redemption is all about. And we tend to think that the gospel is that gray circle right there. That's the whole gospel. It's not. The gospel is the story of God for the glory of God. And someday, He's going to restore all things back to its intended order. There'll be shalom once again. Okay, you heard somebody use the green shalom? What's shalom mean? Peace. Peace. You know what the real meaning behind shalom is? They say peace, and how are you going to have peace? Shalom really means everything is the way it's supposed to be. And when everything's the way it's supposed to be, what will we have? Peace. Okay? This is the overall story of God. Now, at the heart of the gospel, at that gray circle in the middle, we see this. Man who was once dead is now alive. You don't have this on your chart, I don't think. Man who was once condemned is now accepted. Man who was once alienated from God is adopted as His child. Man who was in bondage to sin is now free. Man who is isolated and alone is now part of His body, the church. And man who lived for himself now lives for God. And watch this. Man who was hopeless now has hope. I love what 1 Peter 2, 9 through 10 says. Would somebody read this real loud for us? Just somebody jump on and read it loud.
But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for His own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of Him who called you out of the darkness into His marvelous light. Once you were not a people, but now you are God's people. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy.
So God has yanked us out of the kingdom of darkness and brought us into the kingdom of this marvelous light. Why? Why did He do that? I gave you a hint. It's in red. The verse. Why did He do it? So that we may proclaim the excellencies of Him who called you. See, it's not about you. It's about Him, and He saved you for that purpose. So, here in the middle is, yes, the cross of Christ and everything is the heart of redemption. And redemption is the center of the story of God. But it's not the whole story. Okay, that's what we got to continue to be reminded of. And what has happened over the years is Matt Chandler does a great thing in his book, The Explicit Gospel, where he talks about the gospel in the air and the gospel on the ground. The gospel in the air is all about the majesty of God. It's all about the glory of God. It's all about Him. The gospel on the ground is how the gospel impacts me. I need to be forgiven. I get freedom from guilt. I was once alienated, now I'm accepted. All of those things have to do with how the gospel impacts me. What happened in the 70s and into the 80s For you guys, that's in the 19s. What happened is, as psychology started to creep into the church, and this whole thing about self-esteem and the human potential of man crept into the church, we lost sight of the gospel in the air, and it was all about what you get out of it, and it was all about how the gospel can make you a better person. Or you want to have a friend. Jesus is your friend. Try God, he's the real thing. You know, all these kinds of things. And we lost sight of the gospel in the air totally. And the gospel has become very, very man-centered. And we believe that God saves us for us. And so I appreciate what Matt and Jeff Vanderstelt and some of these other guys are doing in trying to bring us back to an understanding of the gospel in the air. Because we've lost sight of that. And we've lost sight of the majesty and the holiness of God. See, here's the number one thing about God we need to know. He is Lord God Most High. Is he my Abba Father, my daddy? Yeah. But I only really appreciate that he's my daddy when I understand this. The Lord God Most High, who's my daddy. So what I want to do is to start to help us think how this all works. Now, if we take this creation, fall, redemption, restoration theme, each of these categories are really key because they answer some of the key questions of your whole view of life and your world. Your worldview. And the first one of those is creation. How did I get here and why am I here? I mean, isn't that a question everybody asks? They may not ask how I got here, but they sure want to know why I'm here. Everything's all about, I got a purpose. Why am I here? The fall. Why are things and the people around me not the way they're supposed to be? Something's broken, and who broke it? Who's to blame? Okay? Now, our culture that we live in, see, answers all these questions to a certain degree. Like this question, who's to blame? I like to look at bumper stickers on cars. And then what I do is I read all the bumper stickers, and then I get a mental image of what I think the person driving the car must look like based on the bumper stickers on their car. And then I try to catch up with them in a street light, you know, so I can actually look and see how close I was to being right. Okay? So my favorite bumper sticker of all time, and it's just this just tells where our culture is at. Humpty Dumpty was pushed. Poor guy, it wasn't his fault. He got pushed. It was probably his dysfunctional family of origin that pushed him off the wall. Poor guy. It wasn't his fault. That's our culture. Something's broke. And I'm not to blame, somebody else is. Okay? Why are things not... They look like. I don't remember. But I know they didn't look like an egg. Redemption. Who or what will rescue what's broken? I was designed for this. It's broken. Who's going to fix it? And how is that going to get redeemed? Okay? And the last question is, what will the world look like as it should be? Those are four of the key questions of your worldview that have been shaped in how you think. And you filter your decisions and your beliefs through how you answer those questions. They're going to affect everything in how you answer those questions, okay? So we're going to unpack this tonight. So God is on this mission, and what's his mission? Okay, to reveal himself in his glory. Let's try it again. God is on a mission. What's his mission? Okay, be ready for that because you're going to get asked that a lot tonight. Here's the thing. We're on a mission too. God's on a mission to reveal himself in his glory. Guess what our mission is? To protect ourselves and our story. See, at the fall, the focus all got shifted. It got shifted from Lord God Most High to moi, me. Right? And what was the lie? You could be your own God. So as we're protecting the story, we think the story is about us. We believe that we deserve to have life on our terms and that we can do that with our own resources. People and circumstances and even God are there to cooperate with me to reach my goals. God doesn't know what he's doing or he's not coming through for me, so I need to take things into my own hands and do it my own way. And I really don't need to God because I can be independent from God. See, because now I'm the authority. We've lost sight of Lord God Most High. You see, the gospel is the story about God, not a story about me. Francis Chan in curriculum uses this illustration. He says, this is how distorted this whole thing is and how we think. We think it's all about us. He said, that's like you being in a movie, and your part is you're an extra in a movie. And this movie is like a Lord of the Rings type of movie, and it's this big battle scene with hundreds of thousands of soldiers fighting against each other, and your part is you're one of those soldiers. And for 1/10 of a second, if you know where to look, the back of your head shows up somewhere in the middle of all of these other soldiers. So you know what you do? Opening night of the movie's coming out, you buy out every seat in the theater and you invite all your friends to come see this movie about you. And so they come to the movie and they watch it and they're kind of sitting there confused. And hey, wasn't that a great movie about me? They go, I never saw you. Matter of fact, I watched all the credits. I didn't even see your name. Oh no, it's a movie about me. See, that's the lie. We believe life is all about us. It's about me. The story is about me. And God is there to make sure my story turns out the way that it's supposed to. It's not a story about me. It's a story about God. Now, Satan's on a mission too. His mission, okay, God's mission is what? All right, you're getting better. You're almost there, not quite, but it's good. It's coming. Okay? God's mission is to reveal himself in his glory. Our mission is to protect ourselves and our story. You know what Satan's mission is? To steal, kill, and destroy. That's what he's all about. And that's what he's doing. He wants to kill, steal, and destroy. Now let me tell you what Satan's strategy is. It's very, very simple. Here's Satan's strategy. 2 things. Doubt God, depend on yourself. That's it. Okay. So Satan comes to Eve in the garden, right? What's the first thing Satan said to Eve? Do you remember? Did God really say you're going to die? What is that? Doubt God. See? Doubt God. See, no, God just knew that if you eat of the tree, you'll have all knowledge, and now you won't need him anymore. Depend on yourself. Doubt God, depend on yourself. Behind every temptation that's thrown at you tonight, tomorrow, and this week, behind it is to don't really believe God is enough. Doubt God. Doubt that God's enough. See, whatever this sin is going to bring me is better than what God has to offer. Doubt God. Doubt his provision. He's not really there. So guess what? Depend on yourself. Take it in your own hands. It's the same strategy he used with Jesus coming out of the wilderness. What was the first temptation? Turning the stone to what? Bread. What was he saying? Wow. 40 days is a long time. You must be really hungry. Didn't God take care of you there? He didn't provide anything for you to eat? Wow. What kind of a God is that? Hey, you know what? You can do something about that. Just take the stone and turn it into bread. You're hungry. You deserve to eat. God didn't come through, so do it yourself. Doubt God. Depend on yourself. And every temptation that is thrown at you and every sin you commit, at some point behind it is you're doubting the reality of God, the promises of God, the presence of God, the provision of God, and turning to something else. and hoping somehow that will be God to you. Okay, so we're in this battle. And Satan's strategy is to get us to doubt God and depend on ourselves. Now, everybody lives for a story. Everybody lives for a story. Jeff Vanderstelt says it this way: every person you encounter, every community you enter into, and every culture you engage has a dominant story with many sub-stories. The dominant story is the most prominent, compelling, and controlling informant for how people perceive God, others, and the world. Did you get that? There's a story that you're living, and that story that you're living is determining how you're going to perceive God, yourself, and the world around you. Some call this a worldview because it's the lens through which they view the world. One's worldview shapes how they receive and process information, engage in relationships, make decisions, and shape their philosophy and beliefs. But you know what? We never think about what is shaping my beliefs. We never think about what's shaping and informing and influencing the decisions I'm making. Michael Goheen, in the book The True Story of the Whole World, says this: in order to make sense of our lives and to make our most important decisions, we depend on the story that provides the broader framework of meaning for our lives. Again, McIntyre says it well: I can only answer the question, what am I to do, if I can answer the prior question of what story do I find myself a part of. Our lives and the questions and events that fill them take their meaning from within some larger story. Okay, so let's take a few minutes and unpack this. Because it doesn't matter whether you're a single Christian or you're a married Christian. There's a storyline that you're living, and it's been shaped since the day you were born. As a matter of fact, it started getting shaped before you were even born. So let's unpack these 4 key areas of our worldview: creation, fall, redemption, restoration, and see how these questions get answered. First question: why am I here? You know, when we're born, why we think we're here? To be king of everything. It's all about me. My kids are 26 and 23. I don't know where they learned this, but I didn't teach them how to say mine. I didn't teach them that. Where'd that come from? It's got to be from my wife's genetic. Somewhere. Mine. See, we're born believing that it's about us. So we're born believing lies about God, lies about our world, and lies about ourselves. And they're a result of 3 things. If we're to liken this to a lens we're looking through, when we were created in Genesis 1, both of our lenses are perfectly clear and we can see clearly the glory of God. Adam and Eve saw God for who he was. They were in right relationship with him. They saw harmony. At the fall, now they're blinded in one eye. The God of this age has blinded their eyes, Paul tells us. So this one eye is blind, but see, it's got a lens on it. But what it really is, it's like, you know those mirrored sunglasses? 70s. Okay, the mirrored sunglasses? That lens gets flipped around at the fall. So when you try to look out of that lens, what do you see? Yourself. And you know what Adam and Eve, when they saw themselves for the first time, saw? Guilt and shame. Well, I got another lens. But this lens is all distorted. And there's 3 things that have distorted this lens. Our depravity, which we're born with, already believing it's all about us, already believing lies, our culture, and our experiences. Our culture that we're born in shapes what we think either success is or how we think you're going to survive in the world. And in our American culture, it's all about consumerism, it's all about comfort, it's all about pleasure, it's all about me. So we're born into that culture, and we already are looking through the lens of our culture, and we have expectations about what life's supposed to be like. So I get out of my nice hot shower, and I stand underneath a heat lamp, So I can dry out with my nice thick terry cloth towel, put on my bathrobe and slippers, and walk through my air-conditioned house. My friend Umar in Nigeria goes to the public well, gets a bucket of water out, takes it home, builds a fire in the backyard, heats up the bucket of water on the fire, then takes the bucket of water into the bathroom, into the shower, and takes a coffee cup and scoops water out of that and pours it on him, and that's his hot shower. Does he have a different view of comfort and success than I do? Radically different. See, we're born into a culture. We don't even realize how much that culture has shaped how we view and what we think and what we expect. And then we have these experiences in life. And our experiences of life either teach us how to survive or how to succeed. And you start learning that really early in your family. And what happens now is we're going along in the story all about me. These things have influenced and shaped how I view everything. So now what happens is we run into story problems. We run into story problems. I'm supposed to be king, but guess what? I've got all these idols that are supposed to be calling me king and making me feel like king, but they're letting me down. As king, all I do is I look for idols and things that validate my kingship. Whatever I look to other than God to satisfy and fulfill me, God calls a what? An idol. And you know something about idols? Idols never fail to fail. So I hit these story problems in life because my idols are failing and I'm broken. And so there's these story problems. And often you experience pain and trauma. Now, the degree that there's pain and trauma in your life is the degree now that some of these lies that you were already born with and you're learning about your world and yourself get reinforced. Okay, if we were like a computer, our body and everything, when God regenerates us, what gets regenerated? Our spirit, right? We got a new spirit. Our heart that was a stone is made flesh. So I have a new heart, a new spirit. That's like a new CPU. I got a new central processing unit now. Guess what else I got? I got a new power supply. The Holy Spirit, right? Here's the problem. I got the same little hard drive. See, I wish when God regenerated us, He just took all those memories, all those story problems that I've experienced, all those difficulties I've gone through, all the evil that was done to me growing up, and some of you in this room had some evil done to you, maybe even by your parents. And what happens is those things reinforce those lies. And it's like it burns this corrupt file on the hard drive of our thinking. And the more pain there is with it, and the more trauma associated to it, the deeper and harder that gets burned into the hard drive. And I wish God just took that all and dragged it over and dumped it in the trash. But He doesn't. I'm told to be being transformed by the renewing of my mind, see? I have to start thinking right about things. So all of these lies get reinforced by these story problems that I run into. The difficult people and difficult circumstances in my life that aren't bowing down and honoring me as king. Because, see, I deserve to be king. See, when I come home at night, here's what's supposed to happen. My wife and kids and the dog are supposed to greet me at the door. And here's what they say. "Oh, great chief warrior who's been out slaving today to provide for us and to protect us, thank you so much. Now welcome home to your castle. How can we serve you?" Does that work for you, Clark? No. So it doesn't work. There's these story problems, see, and it's not reinforcing that I'm king. And so now I get even more committed to protect myself. And see, God's on a mission to reveal Himself in His glory, and our mission is to protect ourselves in our story. And the more these lies get reinforced, the more committed I am to protect myself. You've been hurt, and you're never going to ever let somebody get close to you again. Maybe your first husband left, and you were left financially destitute, and you made a commitment and a vow that you would never be financially dependent on a man again. And we get committed to these things to protect ourselves. And you know what we end up experiencing? Rejection, inadequacy, guilt, shame. We're searching like crazy for value and purpose, and all we see around us is broken relationships. It's broken. The fall. It's broken. Well, what's our remedy? Well, our remedy is usually to find a way to fix it ourselves. Because what's Satan's strategy, number one? Doubt God. So I'm not going to turn to God. I'm going to doubt God. Instead, what am I going to do? Depend on myself. So I look for my way to try to fix what's broken and reestablish my kingship over my world and my kingdom. And so we tend to go into three ways in trying to fix it. Now, when I first developed this diagram, I was asked by Matt up at Mountain View in Fort Collins, one of your other churches, to come and speak to 35 of their student ministry leaders, and they wanted me to address this question: why do high school kids cut and commit suicide? Here's why they do that. Because they've run into story problems, and life's not going the way that they want it to go. And so now they're going to try to fix it themselves. The first way we try to fix it is to just avoid pain. I'm going to find a way to avoid pain. So I either live in denial or suppression. I become a people pleaser. I want to become popular, do whatever I have to do to gain everybody's acceptance and approval. Man, this was me growing up. This was so me. I grew up in a little Baptist church in Fremont, Michigan. Pretty legalistic. No, very legalistic. My dad was a deacon and my mom was the church secretary. So anytime the church doors were open, we were there. I think if the deacons were painting a wall in a Sunday school classroom, we were probably there watching them paint it. So church life was just what we were all about. In 9th grade, which was kind of just still junior high for us there, 10th grade is where high school started. In 9th grade, I got to school early every day, and I met the band instructor who went to our church, and he'd open the band room, and I hosted and held prayer meetings for other Christians who wanted to come and pray before school started. So I'm being touted as the up-and-coming next preacher boy at our church and all this, and that's 9th grade. 10th grade, and now in high school. And in high school now, by the end of high school, my high school year, my 10th grade year, I'm getting to school early every day as well now. But instead of getting there to lead a Bible study or a prayer meeting, I was getting there early to smoke a joint before I went to class. Now, I didn't do a 180. I still did all the stuff at church. See, I learned how to do all the stuff at church that gained everybody's acceptance and approval, because in my kingship, everybody's supposed to accept and affirm me. So I did what I needed to do to get accepted there, and I did what I needed to do over here to get accepted by the social kids at school and the popular kids. And I was fine with this glaring inconsistency, because I was getting out of life what I wanted. That's the storyline I want to live, to be accepted, and I'm getting all of that. It got to the point in my 11th grade of high school, I won the Bible Knowledge Trophy for Bible quizzing for all of Western Michigan. And I only missed going to school high, I think, maybe 2 days out of the whole year. And I don't know what's happening because I was trying to get 100%. I knew about God. I was as far from God as you could be. I had 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus memorized backwards and forwards, inside and out. There's no reality of anything. I knew about God, but I didn't know God. And you know what I learned? I don't really care how much you know. I really don't. I don't care how much you know. I don't care how much scripture you know. You know what I care? Where are you at today with Jesus Christ? Are you following Him? Are you putting Him on display? Are you making sure that God's mission is being fulfilled of putting Him on display in His glory? So, I understood this. That's where I was at. Avoid pain by getting acceptance, okay? Second way we try to fix it is to fix the cause of the pain. So if you're the cause of the pain, then you're going to fix yourself. You're going to fix yourself. But if you think other people are the cause of the pain, then you're going to fix them. See, the first person believes if I can keep everybody happy and they like me, life's fine. This person believes if everybody just does what they're supposed to do, if they just play by the rules, no. If they just play by my rules, then this is all going to work. So if it's fixing myself, then I'm going to excel in sports or athletics. I'm going to control my image. I want to look a certain way, have the right clothes, have everybody look to me, because I'm going to fix me. See, that's our second way we try to deal with it. When neither of those work, and if I ever knew how to do this, when neither of those work, then we go to approach number 3. And here's what approach number 3 says. This just hurts too much. I can't deal with this pain anymore. I've got to find a way to get out of this pain. And you know what relieves my pain? When I cut myself and I feel that blood coming out and I see it coming out, I feel this incredible release of all this pressure that I feel to have to be somebody that I know I'm not. And I feel like I'm doing something because everything else is out of my control, but I can control this and nobody else knows about it. It's my own little world, but I can do something about fixing this guilt and shame that I feel. See, really all they're doing is trying to save themselves. Now, we as adults, we get more sophisticated than that. You know, we anesthetize ourselves with our hobbies or with our sports or with our things, with our vacations, with alcohol, pornography. All those are just escapes. They're just escapes. They're trying to avoid this pain that these story problems have caused. Well, where's that going to take me? That's our attempt to fix it. Where's that going to take me? I got a real problem because they turned that light out and I can't see that clock. And so if it's midnight, let me know and I'll stop, okay? No, you can leave it off. That's okay. I got it here. Okay, what does this result in? My attempts no longer work and my kingdom is crumbling. And that leads me to depression and despair. There's loss of hope. What's broken will never be fixed. I will never be loved. I have no value. I cannot deal with this pain anymore. Life is not worth living. So why live? That's where that storyline takes you, guys. When you look at those 4 areas and you answer those questions that way, living for my story, that's where you end up. Okay, let me give you an example. So there's a gal that works with you or works in your office, and she's not a follower of Christ, and she lives with her boyfriend. They've got a great place that they're living in, and her job's going well, and you know, she's living the dream. And one day she comes in, you know, she's really, really distraught. You discover that the boyfriend who's loving her has found another girl and moved out and left. She's devastated. Okay? When she answers this question, why am I here? What's her answer to that question? I'm here to be loved. I'm here for somebody to prove that I'm a lovable person, because when I look at this reflection in this mirror, in this lens, I don't really like what I see, and I don't really think I'm all that lovable. And the way my parents treated me, I don't feel very loved by them. I got to find somebody that can prove that I'm a lovable person and love me. What's your story problem? The person who is doing that's gone. So you watch her over the next couple of weeks, you notice, she's not going out to lunch with everybody. Instead, she's bringing a salad to her desk, and she brings her jogging shoes, and she's taking her lunch hour to eat a little bit of salad and run around the block a few times. What's she doing? You know what she's doing. She's trying to make herself look like really attractive. Why? She's trying to fix the problem. How's she going to fix the problem? I've got to get another man. Somebody who's going to love me and prove that I'm a lovable person. Okay, let me stop right there. I want to just talk to the single Christians. A lot of you probably feel that way right now. Let me tell you something. Getting married isn't going to fix that. It's just not. And whatever sense of being loved by this other person you get, eventually that kind of wears off. And there's only one thing worse than wishing you were married and not being married. You know what that is? Being married and wishing you weren't. See, the solution to your problem that you're feeling is not to go get married. We'll talk about what the solution is in a minute. Okay? So, this gal, what's she doing? What does she think things are going to look like when they're like they're supposed to be? Another man's going to be in her life. And now this man's going to prove to her that she really is a lovable person. Well, let me tell you something about her storyline. Over here, it's got a bad ending. Living for my story like that never is going to end well. Because no man is ever going to love her the way that she desires to be loved. And what she gets momentarily won't last. Because she was designed for something more than that. And whatever love we experience in a marriage is really just a little taste of God's love for us and a little picture of that. But it's not the whole enchilada. No spouse is going to love you the way that only God can love you. They're not. They're going to let you down. They're going to disappoint you. There's a lot of times you go, I'm sure glad, God commanded me to love them, but right now I don't like them all that much. And you never thought a king-size bed with one of you on this edge of the bed facing that way and one on this edge of the bed facing that way, a king-size bed could feel so small. She's living for the wrong story. She's living for the wrong story. But what if there's a different story? What if there's a bigger story?
Interesting question. Randy.
Were you going to answer it or not? Come on. Okay, you want to discover your storyline? You want to discover your storyline and what is driving you and how you answer all those questions? Matt Scott at Mountain View came up with these questions, and when they take students out in the high country backpacking, they, through the course of their week together, or how many days they're together, they make sure they ask all of these questions of the students, okay? Tell me about your family, especially your father. When you find out what somebody's relationship with their father is like, you're going to find out all kinds of things about them, and you're going to find out what their story is going to start to look like and the lies that they're believing. Second question, tell me about your friends. Tell me what you do for fun. Tell me about your faith. And tell me how you envision your future. When you answer all of those questions or have somebody else answer those questions for their life, you're going to have a pretty good picture of what storyline they're living for. Now here's what we got to do. We got to look at our storyline that we're living for and match it up to God's storyline. And see, so the question is, whose story are you living for? Are you living for the right story? Well, let's take a look at what living for the right story is. Okay, creation. Why am I here? How did I get here and why am I here? God created me to be in a relationship with Him, and He is king, right? God is king. That's why He created me. Now, I'm created in the image of God. I have dignity and I have value because I'm created in the image of God, and I have design and purpose being created in the image of God. God designed us to do things and experience things and to build things and to create. What was the first job He gave Adam? Name the animals. And he had to have creativity to do that. And I can just see Adam. Look at this thing. Pollywog. That's a good name. Oh. Hippopotamus. Yeah. Hippopotamus. You know what I think he did? He looked at that and said hippopotamus. I think he high-fived himself. That was a good one. Great. Good job, Adam. He got satisfaction and a sense of fulfillment out of doing things and creating things and building things and designing things, because that's part of God's image in us, to build his kingdom. But guess what the fall does? Whose kingdom are we trying to build? Ours instead of his. So see, I was created to be in a relationship with God himself. I'm love. It's all about God and his story. Okay, next area, fall. In God's story, what went wrong? Well, Humpty Dumpty wasn't pushed. Man rebelled against God. And at the core of our problem now is pride and unbelief. That's at the core of all of our sin and everything else. You know what pride is? Pride says, I know better than God. You know what pride says? I can depend on myself. Sound familiar? Okay? What does unbelief say? God doesn't know what he's doing. What does unbelief say? Doubt God. See, at the core of all our problems again is this unbelief and pride, which plays right into Satan's strategy of us doubting God and depending on ourselves. So now fear becomes the main motivation. When Adam and Eve chose wrongly and rebelled against God, and God is chasing them down, and he finally says, Adam, where are you? What are you doing, Adam? And Adam said an interesting thing. He said, I was afraid, so I covered myself. Fear becomes the key motivation now. And because of the fall in all of us and our depravity, we look through that one lens and it reflects back at us and we see guilt and shame, and we're trying to cover it somehow. And now I feel inadequate and there's no direction, there's insecurity, there's rejection, and it's still all about protecting my story. But watch what happens now in God's story. Who and what can fix this? Christ died on the cross to reconcile man back to God. So now we see the unfolding of the gospel. And there's three aspects of the gospel that we have to understand here. The first is this. Tim Keller just did a great thing in an article on talking about the gospel in balance here. And the first thing we need to have this in balance is that I'm graciously accepted. There's nothing I can do to get God to love me. There's nothing I can do to get God to accept me. There's nothing I can do to keep God loving me. See, God doesn't love you more when you obey and less when you disobey. Now, that doesn't make any sense to me. It wasn't that way growing up in my home. It's not that way when you go to work. You see, grace is counter everything we experience. I need God's grace today just as much as I needed his grace the day before I became a follower of him. And there's nothing I can do to get it, nothing I can do to keep it. It's all about him and his grace. I'm graciously accepted. So now I should be growing in this grace and mercy that was freely given to me, and I'm growing in a greater dependence on him rather than the independence that Satan wants me to go after. I'm growing in dependence on him, and I'm showing others love and forgiveness. Second, I have a changed life. I have a changed heart now. I've got a new CPU and a new power source, baby. I'm cooking. I'm growing in humility now as I see God change my life. And as he changes and shapes me, I become a better image bearer of Christ. And as a better image bearer of Christ, guess what I do? I put God on display in his story. And I am a part of his mission of what? Revealing and his glory. So I'm graciously accepted I have a changed life, but there's also hope of a new world coming. It doesn't end there. See, there's hope of this new world coming. And someday, there's going to be this new world where it's all the way it's supposed to be. And right now, we're to engage in our culture showing mercy and justice, which is part of revealing what God is like. So I need to be concerned about those things that are happening around me in my community. I need to be engaged in trying to help get girls off the street. I need to worry about the people, not worry, I need to engage with the people who don't have any food to eat. Now, When I do that, when I engage in my world with justice and mercy, I'm giving the world a little taste of God and a little taste of what His kingdom is like. When I do that, we as a body, when we do that, we become a movie trailer of what the coming kingdom is going to be like. We're showing the rest of the world and giving them just a little taste of what it's going to be like when God restores all things back to His intended purpose. So I'm putting God on display. Then what's going to happen? Someday there's going to be restoration, and guess what? There's going to finally be shalom again. Things that are the way they're supposed to be. Hope is realized. I have this inheritance that I've been promised by God, this experience. What was broken is fixed forever. There's no fear or shame, only love for God. I'm fulfilling my intended design. I'm loved as God has designed me to be loved. I'm living in harmony with all of God's creation. I'm living free from myself and living all for the glory of God. See, guess what? This story always has a good ending. It always has a good ending. Luke Giglio says it this way. It's not about you and making your story better, but about waking up to the infinitely bigger God story happening all around you and God's invitation to you to join Him in it. It's about looking up to see that there's a story that has been going on long before you arrived on the planet and one that will go on long after you're gone. God is the central character of this story. He commands center stage in existence, creation, time, life, history, redemption, and eternity. See what it's all about? He didn't save you just so you get to go to heaven and not go to hell. He saved you for Him. Now let me talk a minute about how this all looks now. Well, let's look at this contrast between my kingdom, my story, living for my story to build my kingdom, and living for God's kingdom and building His story. In my kingdom, I'm king, I'm the authority. My identity is based on my kingship, and others are supposed to treat me as king. Oh, great chief warrior. In God's kingdom, He's the king, and I submit to Him, and I serve Him. In my kingdom, it's all about my story. People cooperate with me. Circumstances are all supposed to align. Even the planets align to make sure that things are going the way I think they should, and that my story ends well. In God's kingdom, it's all about His story and His glory. In my kingdom, I pursue my goals on my terms with my resources, regardless of the cost. In God's kingdom, I pursue His goals. In my kingdom, I seek idols or things to satisfy me. God's not enough. When my idols fail, I get discouraged or angry, and then I just go look for new idols. In God's kingdom, I'm pursuing Him and His righteousness. In my kingdom, I use people, and people serve my ends to accomplish my goals, and people only have value to the degree that they help me accomplish my goals. In God's kingdom, I see others as more important than myself. Now, here's the problem. There's this clash of kingdoms. Now, there's a clash of kingdoms. My kingdom is clashing and colliding with God's kingdom. I'm going to give you one diagram up here, then we're going to take a 5-minute stretch break. Okay, here's kind of how this works. If this circle represents God's kingdom, it's all about His story and His glory, right? Who's king over God's kingdom? Well, the safest answer when you get asked a question like that is always Jesus. You know, just say Jesus. That's the safest answer, okay? We sing about King Jesus. Okay, Jesus is king over God's kingdom, right? Okay, this circle over here represents my kingdom, and it's all about my story. Who do I think is king over my kingdom? Wow, me. Okay, here's the problem. When most of us become a follower of Christ, a Christian, here's what we think happens. we think Jesus comes down here into our kingdom to make it work. We even share the gospel this way. Your marriage is a mess, you need Jesus. Your kids are out of control, you need Jesus. Your finances are upside down, you need Jesus. Okay, now with Jesus in my marriage, should that make a difference in how I relate to my wife? Sure. Why? So there's less conflict and better sex? I'm all for both of those. But that's not the reason why. Why do I want Jesus in my parenting? So my daughter doesn't get pregnant and my son doesn't get on drugs? Well, why do I want Jesus in my finances? So I finally have enough money at the end of the month and I can buy all the things I want? You see, we even share you need Jesus to make your kingdom work. When I become a follower of Christ, here's what happens. God yanks me out of the kingdom of darkness, which this is, by the way, and He places me in His kingdom for His purpose and His story. Here's a story before we go to pray. Gal comes to your small group. She's distraught. 32 years old. A 5-year-old girl living at home. She just found out from the doctor that day that she's got a rare brain tumor that is inoperable and incurable, and she may have 9 to 12 months to live. Okay, what are the stories? Not the stories. What are the questions in her storyline? What are the questions she's asking? Help me out. What might some of those questions be? Why me? Good. Yeah, one of them's going to happen to my daughter. Why me? Why this? Why now? What did I do wrong? Where's God? Right? Because see, she's already got the storyline of her life already written out in her mind. She's going to see her daughter graduate from high school with honors. She's going to help her move into her first dorm room at Wheaton College, help her decorate it. She's going to help her pick out her bridal gown when she meets that guy at Wheaton that, eventually proposes to her. And then she's going to be there in the hospital room for the delivery of her first child. Those are all the chapters in the book that she's on. There's no chapter in the story of her life that includes incurable cancer. But there isn't God's. There isn't His storyline. Because see, God's not sitting up there going, whoa, incurable cancer, I wasn't expecting that one. What am I going to do here? Whoa, I don't know what to do with this one. Everything that happens in our life and everything that God allows in our life has divine purpose and has eternal purpose. And guess what it's all designed to do? Put God on display and bring glory to Him. Whose storyline are you living for? This one? Got a bad ending. This is where God put us. Let's figure out what that looks like. You see, if I'm doing this, all I'm going to look to my marriage for, and all I'm going to look to my spouse to do, is make my kingdom work. And if I don't deal with this issue right up front, I don't care how many marriage seminars you go to and how many books you read on marriage. If you're living over here, you're going to run into story problems that are going to mess you up, and you're not going to know how to deal with it. Let's take a 5-minute break.